So there's a chance you haven't heard of the Principality of Sealand. Sealand, for the uninitiated, is a micronation led by Prince Michael, built on a disused World War II sea fort that declared independence from the UK in 1967. There's lots of videos on YouTube about the history of Sealand and all the interesting things that have happened to it over the years, but this isn't one of them. There are loads of different aspects of Sealand, like international law, political theory, and economics, to the fact that it has its own constitution and flag. But the part that I want to bring attention to is the fact that it has its own national anthem, because it does a really good job of representing Sealand. My name's Elliot Robinson, I'm a music theorist, and this is my take on the national anthem of the Principality of Sealand. Emer Libertas, which is also the country's motto, was composed by Londoner Basil Simonenko. It's an instrumental anthem, 48 bars long in A major in a 3/4 pulse time, following an AA-B-AA formula with a pitch range of a 12th. The original version was MIDI, although there's a lovely recording by the Slovak Radio Symphony Orchestra, to which there's a transcription, made by musical user Theocracy. Now, the most striking thing about this anthem is that it's instrumental, meaning it has no lyrics. However, according to the definition of a national anthem, Wikipedia's anyway, this doesn't matter, and it's fine as an instrumental. I thought about making a video about how you could set words to this anthem, but as far as I can tell there's no Sealandic poetry to use, and I'm not the poet laureate of Sealand, so I'll just stick to analysis. That, and the range of a 12th, makes it relatively difficult to sing. The definition mentions the histories, traditions, and struggles of its people. So one question is, what is the history and tradition of Sealand? I would argue that the thing that best defines Sealand is the sea. It's a big part of Sealand's identity, and the namesake of the micronation. So the major question is, how does this anthem sound like the sea? The piece is in 3/4, meaning that you feel the beat in groups of 3. This is a well-established norm for national anthems, but has another effect. 3/4 is a staple of music in the British Maritime tradition. The most iconic piece of music at sea at the time of Sealand's creation is Ronald Binge's Sailing By, a classical 3/4 piece which was played every night on the shipping forecast on BBC Radio 4, reinforcing a relationship between 3/4 and the sea for the people listening to it, sailors. But even more than that, 3/4 is a staple of maritime folk music, which I would argue is the musical style Sealand's anthem is most inspired by. In fact, speed it up and put it on some MIDI folk instruments, and it sounds a fair bit like something you'd encounter in an RPG when you arrive at a port town. But it's not just the time signature that's reminiscent of maritime folk, but the melody itself. A lot of maritime music is instrumental, just like Sealand's anthem. Held notes don't sound as interesting on instruments as they do sung, so the constantly ascending and descending melody, or scalic melody, keeps the music from losing its momentum. Before I dive into the melody in detail, just a quick note on the harmony. So the piece follows an AA-B-AA ternary form. The A section uses the 1 and 5 chords to establish the key, and then the B section goes to the 4 chord, arguably even modulates to it, but it's over so quickly it doesn't matter. It then returns to A, using the 1 and 5 chord again. Now you might have realised that this piece only uses 3 chords, but this is a good thing. You want to make your anthem as harmonically simple to make it as playable as possible. Also, these 3 chords do everything we need. The 1 chord establishes the home of the key, the 5 chord sets up tension to be released when we return to the 1, while the 4 chord takes the music to a new place, which is always a sure bet for the bridge of a piece. This is how the melody looks in section A. You might notice that it's all built around this one rhythmic idea. The job of a melody, overly simplified, is to hit the notes of a chord in an interesting way. The piece does this by using almost entirely scale progressions and neighbour notes, meaning almost every note is a maximum of 1 step away from the notes around it. Emphasis on almost. This becomes quite obvious if you break the melody down a bit. We start on the A We go up the scale to E, down the scale to C sharp, and then we hold this C sharp using neighbour notes to prevent the music from becoming static. Back down to A, then up to C sharp to step us into the 5 chord on the note B. Neighbour, progress to G sharp, down to E, and then we get a run of a 6th, which leads us into a leap of a major third to return us to the A on the 1 chord. This is that almost I mentioned earlier, although keep that major third leap in mind. We keep going using our 3 and 5 note progressions, climb up and down the scale, and using those neighbour notes to keep the momentum until we hit the A and we're back in our home chord. However, we're not done yet. We get a leap of a major third, up and then down again. Normally, at the end of the section, you might get a quick 1-5-1 progression, so this is a bit interesting. It sounds almost like a doorbell at the end of the piece, which sounds, for lack of a better word, welcoming. And so, the national anthem of Sealand outlines the notes of the 1, 4 and 5 chord using scalic motion, which is common practice in British maritime folk music, along with its 3/4 pulse. The leap of the third is striking enough to become interesting and iconic in its own right, a nice little end to the section. Describing the national anthem of Sealand as maritime and scaly doesn't do it justice, as well as makes it sound a bit like a sea monster. But the piece is clearly able to establish that sea feel. But Sealand isn't the only micronation. There are plenty of micronations out there, with different styles of government, themes, and, of course, national anthems. If you are loyal to any micronation, please suggest it in the comments. I've uploaded my simple piano reduction to MuseScore if you want to check that out. Hopefully I'll play around with it in the future and make some arrangements out of it. But until the next one, please like, subscribe, and consider appointing me the music theorist of your micronation. See you soon, and God bless Sealand.